Hi, everyone. I'm Bob Jenkins. Welcome to SpeedWeek.
And I'm Larry Newber. Bob and I are preparing for ESPN's first live telecast from Bristol, Tennessee this weekend. More on that a little later, but right now let's look at what happened in the world of motorsports last weekend.
Well, Larry, they raced at the old airstrip in Sebring, Florida last weekend. IMSA prototypes, GTUs, GTOs, and the new showroom stock class. The big winner, well, a team that doesn't always get along that well off the track, but on, well, that's a different story. Bob Varsha has a report.
Four-time Indy 500 winner A.J. Foyt of Houston, Texas, teamed with Frenchman Bob Wallach Saturday to win the 33rd running of the Coca-Cola 12 Hours of Sebring. The win was the second for Foyt and Wallach in 3 races on the 1985 International Motorsports Association Camel GT circuit. In a reversal of the season opener at the 24 Hours of Daytona, Foyt and Wallach this time played hare to the hound of the number 14 Lowenbrow Porsche, driven by Al Holbert of Warrington, Pennsylvania, Al Unser Jr. of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and England's Derek Bell. On the very first lap, before a record crowd of more than 40,000, Holbert, starting from the front row, lost a wheel and was hit by another car, putting his team far behind. But by the 8th hour, number 14 was back within a lap of Foyt and Wallach in their orange number 8 Porsche. The demands of playing catch-up were too much for the Holbert car, however, and late transmission problems blunted their charge. Foyt and Wallach cruised home to a 4-lap victory at a record average of just over 113 miles per hour. The Holbert-Bell Unser team finished second, with the 962 of Californians Pete Halsmer and Rick Knoop and Austrian Dieter Quester making it a Porsche sweep. The race over the bumpy 4.86-mile track at Sebring Airport was marked by heavy attrition. Only 27 of the 74 starters reached the finish. The most spectacular incident involved Jim Busby of Laguna Beach, California, who was leading the race when a piece of debris exploded through the floor of his car.
The whole front end of all the fiberglass exploded, and then a big piece of metal came up through the floor and hit me in the leg. And then I tried to push it back down, and it went back out through the floor, and I never saw it again.
Another prominent retiree was pole sitter Hans Stuck of West Germany, who set a new track record of 131 miles per hour in qualifying, then watched as a tire blew out at 180 miles per hour on the Bob Akin Porsche. In the GTO class for big bore sports cars, the Ford Mustang won its 3rd straight race, driven by Wally Dallenbach Jr. of Basalt, Colorado, and Canadian John Jones. The GTU title for cars with smaller engines went to the Porsche 911, driven by a California trio of Gary Oberlin of Rolling Hills and co-drivers Pete Jocker and Adrian Gang of Torrance. And the inaugural Firestone Firehawk 6-hour race for showroom stock cars was won by the Camaro of Skip Gunnell and Scott Flanders of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Next up for the IMSA Camel GT drivers is April 14th at Road Atlanta. This is Bob Varsha reporting.
While Foyt and Wallach were winning for the 2nd time this season, the newest Porsche 962 Convert, the B.F. Goodrich team, was the strongest. Both Busby, who had that floorboard explosion, and the new Halsmer-Quester combo wore the same colors. The debut of the new Firehawk showroom class, the success that everyone expected. Initially for budget racing, the manufacturers and advertisers have treated it completely major league. Both IMSA and SCCA will race these new production divisions. Remember, street tires. 2 classes. The hackers of SCCA Rabbit fame dominated the Battle of the Compacts. Carl in 09 and Brother Paul in 0 had to race the hairpins on 3 wheels, but they beat homestater Randy Potts. The sports and touring divisions were combined into one 6-hour enduro. The pride of Detroit, Chrysler, GM, Ford, against the best from across both oceans. An Argentine entry, racing a Japanese Nissan, led during the early stages, but that good old Camaro saved the day for America. That's Skip Gunnell and Scott Flanders from where the boys are, Fort Lauderdale, hoisting the U.S. flag and hoisting 5,500 into their pockets.
Is this showroom? Well, Marie Benton from Texas blew an engine on Wednesday, bought a new car off the showroom floor, confiscated its engine for her racer, and then won her class, the touring division.
And Larry, the victory in GTP means that Preston Henn's car beat Al Holbert's 2-1 in Florida. Well, John Bishop is the president of the International Motorsports Association, and during a recent interview, I asked him about his group's relationship with the World Endurance Commission.
Well, we don't really have one other than one of detached interest right at the moment, because we decided about 3 years ago that we couldn't live with the fuel consumption rules, which are the basis of the World Endurance Championship.
Can we expect to see a World Endurance Cup race here in the United States in 1985?
Well, they announced a year ago that the rules would be for '85, and then they changed their mind almost immediately and said they would be in effect in 1986. That is, rules similar to ours. And I haven't heard much of anything from the World Endurance Commission for, 8 months or so.
Coming up, they back 'em in at Ascot.
Its live telecast of auto races this Saturday in Bristol, Tennessee. We'll have live coverage of the NASCAR Late Model Sportsman Race Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, then the Valleydale 500 Grand National Race Sunday at 1 p.m. Darrell Waltrip will attempt to become the winningest driver in Bristol Raceway history Sunday. He has a total of 9 wins at that track. Richard Petty will be starting in his 400th Winston Cup race, but the King hasn't won at Bristol since 1975. 3 drivers, Joe Ruttman, Bobby Allison, and Lake Speed, have all tested at above the track record. And our in-car camera will be carried by Kyle Petty, who had tough luck at the track last year. Ron Bouchard will be debuting his new short-track Buick this weekend. The Maurice Petty ride is up for grabs now that Dick Brooks has stepped out. Don Hume has secured a sponsor and is Rookie of the Year contender with the James Hilton team. It's ESPN's first visit to the high-banked half-mile track. We hope you'll join us both Saturday and Sunday.
Last Saturday was the 3rd in the USAC CRA Sprint Car Challenge Series, but few USAC cars showed up, and those that did, well, they might as well have been invisible.
The CRA stars were all out during this Oscar week in Hollywood, and see, the Outlaws aren't the only ones who parade 4 abreast. Just once I'd like to see them drop it. Oh, there they go. Well, no, here's the real green, and it's a shop engineer of Dan Gurney, Jeff Haywood in the lead, number 8. Mike Sweeney in the red 5 is racing with a lot of confidence tonight. He tries and tries. Now, these are not replays. It's hard to get the lead sometimes. There he goes, finally. Now at Ascot, one of the traditions is backing it into the corners, but I don't think this is what they had in mind, Mark Atchison. Top tenor Bob Mealy harmlessly spins off the 4th turn, but the yellow keeps everybody close. Sweeney is withstanding the restarts. Haywood even leads some, but here comes Rapid Eddie Worth. He takes 3rd from Brad Knopfsinger. Then at the same place, Haywood for 2nd. The discussion for 3rd continues behind him, but Worth cannot catch the 2nd generation Sweeney.
The City of Auckland Grand Prix is a prestigious late summer midget race in New Zealand, and American Sleepy Tripp overcame odds to win it. Tripp was unable to get back from racing in Australia to qualify, so he started 19th in a 20-car field. His progress toward the front is slowed by this pileup in turn 4. But when things are green again, Sleepy passes Owen Shaw and wins it. But Tripp admits the driving style there is a lot different from here in the United States.
When I get back, maybe a week or 2, I'll be raring to go. Actually, the racing's so tough down here. I'll be getting back there and hammering a few guys before you settle down a little bit, because racing at Ascot anywhere in the States, you just don't really do that much banging.
Second place finisher Owen Shaw announced his retirement from racing after the competition.
The Can-Am Series has a cloud of uncertainty hanging over its head. Don Walker, the president of the Can-Am Association, has filed for reorganization under Chapter 11 bankruptcy laws, listing over $100 million in debts. SCCA is attempting to save the series, which has at least 12 new cars being built for it. Builders are hoping that they might be able to run the IMSA GTP class if the Can-Am Series is canceled. And officials at Mosport Park near Toronto are saying that they will run a Can-Am race at their facility whether or not there is official IMSA sanction.
This year will apparently be the last year the Formula One cars will run in the streets of Detroit. A new permanent course could be built on Belle Isle Park in the Detroit River. The USAC Sprints make their Midwest debut this weekend at Eldora Speedway in Ohio. Tom Bigelow expected to return to action after an accident in Tampa, Florida in February. Team Honda has decided not to replace injured Ricky Graham this weekend at Ascot Park. Bubba Schobert will carry the Team Honda colors alone. Freddie Spencer won the 250cc division and finished 2nd to Eddie Lawson in the 500cc class at the South African Grand Prix last weekend.
The past 25 years or so, the fastest way around a half-mile track has been V8 power.
But the Southeast All-Pro Association may be changing that. 2 races so far and 2 wins for the V6. Huntsville, Alabama, 2 125s with the first starting straight up. Butch Lindley, winner of Pensacola in a V6, driving a Neil Bonnet V8 today, stretches outward, followed by Steve Grissom in 31. Lap cars quickly encountered on this little quarter mile, and Darrell Waltrip running his usual white 11, showing the signs on his left front. Bobby Allison, Rusty Wallace, racing, testing for third. Dennis Ruiz loops it at the wrong time, right in front of everybody. But the flock sheeps through. Lindley, working heavy traffic expertly, wins it. The top 8 inverted for the second start. 4-time winner Randy Couch leads for a while, and then Bonnet commands. Lindley's race ends with a broken oil line, but Neal's B6 made it a third and a first. Grissom, by the way, was second both races.
The big triple header at Martinsville Speedway in Virginia last Sunday was rained out and rescheduled for Saturday, April 6th, but there were qualifying races on Saturday. These races were for those who qualified outside the top 20. In the first LMS race, number 81, Bobby Labonte, Terry's brother, jumps to an early lead with Bubba Adams and Ronnie Silver following. Joe Thurman spins in turn 1 and will have more trouble later. Silver takes the lead late and holds on for the win, but on the last lap, while battling for the 5th spot, the final qualifying position, Adams and Thurman come together in turn 2. The spectators anticipate fisticuffs when the two come in, but there are none. The second LMS qualifier found Ed Barrier leading early in number 60, but the real story of this race, Joe Kelly in car 36. He survives this spin in turn 4 to finish third. This tight track isn't supposed to have 3 abreast racing, but Dickie Boswell inside, Dick Linville middle, and Glenn Jarrett outside show it can be done. The finish, Boswell, Linville, Kelly, Barrier, and Ronnie Thomas. The first modified race boils down to a battle between Ken Bouchard in U2 and Doug Hebron in number 1. John Falcone loses it in turn 2. Billy Griffin is into the wall with flames, but everyone is okay. Bouchard beats Hebron to the checkered. On the first lap of race 2 for the modifieds, Bob Park in a V6 has contact in turn 1. Tom Mauser in number 45 wins this one with Bug Stevens second.
The National Championship Racing Association, the NCRA, raced in Texas at Devil's Bowl near Dallas last weekend.
For years, this was primarily an Oklahoma group known for them Okie Mods, a cross-pollination of California Coupes and Eastern Slickies. Nowadays, they too are beginning to look like the standardized gremlin shape of the East. They raced with the dirt late models last week, and Eldon Dotson, number 72, prevailed. Their late models have adopted the same kind of rules as the highly successful NDRA of the Southeast. Anything to get these wedge machines to at least resemble late model stock cars. Roger Knutson led first from his pole spot and even survived this restart spin. The rules allowed him back into position, but soon he gives way to Doug Ingalls. Oh, there were lots of cautions and the field was tight, but apparently Ingalls didn't know it. It's very difficult to see inside these creations. With a few laps to go, the very fast Larry Phillips starts to climb, but it was too little, too late.
NDRA, the National Dirt Racing Association, also opened its 1985 campaign Sunday at East Alabama Motor Speedway in Phoenix City. The 25-car field had trouble on the initial start as Stan Massey spun coming out of the pits. That caused a multi-car pileup, but only Leon Sells couldn't continue. The top 4 qualifiers were inverted, and that put Buddy Boutwell in car 41 on the pole and allowed him the early lead. Defending NDRA champion Jeff Purvis brought out the caution when he went over the embankment in turn 3. Boutwell led all the way in winning the Jimmy Thomas Memorial 100. Billy Moyer Jr., number 21, was second. Jack Boggs in B4 was third. A check for $5,000 awaited Boutwell in victory lane.
Coming up, new winners dominate IHRA action in Darlington.
And a former champion will not compete in the first kart race this season. Stay with us.
Is well underway, but last week the other dominant drag racing series, the IHRA, began.
This city is known for stock car racing, but Sunday the drag racers took front and center at Darlington. Tom McEwen scored his only funny car victory of the year here last time, but this semi has many-time winner Kenny Bernstein against Cincinnati's Mark Oswald, a combined 4 wins in '84. Mark executes, despite this little sachet, a 5.78, 260. How fast could it have been? Pro Stock, Georgia's Billy Ewing in the right lane has never won a finals, but watch how his near-perfect semi's driving, straight as an arrow, gets him into the finals, but it's a close one. Ed McCullough similarly has never made it to an IHRA final. In the darkness, favored Oswald loses traction at the line, and it's McCullough. Will Ewing's precision pay off in the Stocker finals? You bet. His first win ever. 2 new winners for the start of the IHRA season.
Bob, an injury last season is still bothering a former IndyCar champion.
And it will keep him out of the first event of the season. Rick Mears will not compete in the kart season opener at Long Beach on April 14th. The Penske team has named Al Unser to replace Rick. Jeff Brabham has joined Bobby Ray Hall and Roberto Guerrero in turning a 127-mile-an-hour lap well under the track record at Laguna Seca. The rumored merger between Team Lotus and Provimi Veal Racing will apparently not happen. Provimi will continue to operate with Ott Grunefeld as the owner. Ari Leyendijk will drive the team's 1985 Lola.
The first Formula 3000 race was won last weekend by Formula 2 champ Mike Thackwell at Silverstone. And the new Ford Mustang Probe GTP car has tested at Daytona with Klaus Ludwig and Doc Bundy. Its debut is scheduled for Laguna Seca on May 5th. And despite a petition drive and a massive letter-writing campaign by Nashville race fans, NASCAR apparently will not change its mind and hold a Grand National race there this year. Speedway leaseholder Gary Baker is reportedly seeking a meeting with NASCAR officials.
Defending NASCAR late model sportsman champion Sam Ard, who was badly injured late last year, has been released by his doctor. But his car owner says he is not ready to drive yet and will apparently keep Jimmy Hensley in the car. Hensley is leading the LMS points going into Saturday's Budweiser 200 that we'll have live for you here on ESPN. The NASCAR North Series has secured Coors as a sponsor. Point fund money will total $290,000 plus contingency money. Well, downforce is a word that most drivers and race fans are familiar with, and Robin Hurd, the designer of the March, says downforce in his short track version has reached unbelievable proportions.
With the short track car, if you turn it upside down and put it on the ceiling and you get a ceiling big enough and you run it at about 118 miles an hour, the car will stick to the ceiling. That means at 118 miles an hour, you're actually producing the same downforce as the weight of the car, but you could turn it upside down.
This, by the way, is Pancho Carter's new short track March in a recent test at Sears Point. Hurd admits that the recent cancellation of the IndyCar race at Phoenix because of a rough racing surface could have been caused in part by downforce.
At Phoenix, we're doing about 130 miles an hour through the fast corner, and the suction load there is about 2,200 pounds. And this is so great that it's actually sucking the pavement from the concrete underneath it. It's actually pulling the track to bits. And they're going to have to do a very serious repaving program to get over this problem.
The new short track Marches create about 12% more downforce than last year's model.
And here's this week's trivia question. Combining both IHRA and NHRA, who won the most Pro Stock championships last year? A, Billy Meyer, B, Bob Glidden, C, Ricky Smith, D, Warren Johnson, or E, the late Lee. I'll have the answer in a moment. The answer to this week's trivia question. Billy Meyer won a combined 6 funny car crowns last year. Glidden did win Pro Stock twice. Ricky Smith surprised a couple of times in IHRA, and Warren Johnson scored 5 times in NHRA. But only the late Lee Shepard won for both sanctioning groups, a total of 10 times.
Recently, racing in the streets of such cities as Detroit and Dallas and Long Beach has become quite popular. But the small town of Eloy, Arizona has been staging a street race there for the past 6 years. 5 groups of cars raced here. Brian Clifton in car 78 passed Bob Sovey late in their event to win overall honors in Group 1. Gary Paulson tried a little too hard to overtake eventual Group 2 winner Gene Cosmano, who, by the way, is 62 years old and has won 5 times now. Number 44 Ron Haas took home the first place money in Group 3. Steve Jones got off to a bad start and picked up a passenger in the Group 4 race. Andrew Colson was the winner. And Neil Posey crashed a Merlin in Group 5. John Brooks in car number 96 took the checkered flag.
We hope that you'll be around to see who takes the checkered flag Saturday and Sunday when we're live in Bristol, Tennessee with the NASCAR Late Model Sportsman and the Grand National Stars. I'm Larry Newberg.
And I'm Bob Jenkins. We hope you'll join us again next week on Speed Week.
Speed Week has been brought to you by B.F. Goodrich, makers of a complete line of high-performance TA radios, and by the STP Corporation. On the world's racetracks, on the world's roads, depend on STP, the car care company.